All right, what's up? My name is Fife, and I've got Jordy Tait with me here. We are both coaches who work with service-based small business owners, and a lot of what we focus on with our clients is around time management and how they try and manage getting more done in less time. And today, one of the things we're going to talk about is something we hear all the time from people, which is, I know I should be delegating, but I suck at it and I'm not doing it. And I know it's holding me back. So we're going to spend a couple minutes just kind of sharing some wisdom from some of our coaching sessions and some of our own experience with this as well, with some visuals, because that's my jam. And we'll just kind of riff on this and have some fun. So,
Yeah, and we'll talk about why it's happening, like why people struggle with delegation, because it's not just they don't know the process, but also what are some ways that you can actually improve at this so you can get more done in less time and have more life while you're growing your business.
yeah, absolutely. Let's dive in and just bring some clarity to how this holds you back and how this is impacting your business and your life. And Jordy, just like based on some of the things you see with your clients, what do you notice in terms of how it's holding clients back?
The thing I like to say to people is that as long as you're the only one doing something in your business, you will always be the only one doing that thing. And so there's always things that people are doing that they find frustrating, challenging, they're not skilled at, their web design, their social media, their bookkeeping, whatever it is. But as long as you hold on to that and don't let it go, you're going to be stuck doing it. And
Yeah.
that's not going to change. And you'll never have that freedom that most people dream about. So that's a big thing that not delegating keeps people stuck where they are, having to do all the things, even the things that they don't want to do and aren't skilled at.
Yeah. So what popped up for me, because I talk in visuals, it's like you're doing the same thing over and over again. So you stay stuck in place here versus if you are able to delegate, um, like this is different phase. You have a couple other people and you have to do some stuff where you're able to like pass off some of these and then they do them.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
then these things that you're doing become like the higher, more important things. Um, and you're offloading some of these like boring things that are likely super draining for you.
Yeah. And it also, just based on that image, you can see that you can get more done when more people are doing work. When the part of this that gets challenging is when you're trying to grow a business, you're trying to get more done, but you have a limited amount of time and energy. And so if you don't let go of more stuff, if you don't delegate more consistently, only a specific amount of stuff can get done every day.
Yeah.
And when you start to delegate more and you get a team or you get contractors or vendor support, now more stuff gets done in the same amount of time and you're not the one doing it all.
Yeah. The other thing that we were talking about before this was just this like intersection of what's draining versus energizing. Um, and like the image that always pops up for me, and you kind of talked through it as well, is passion versus skill. And if if it ends up being a bit of a quadrant on this graph, if you're passionate about it and you're skilled at it, we end up here and we're able to get a lot more done and stay engaged with it versus the guy that's stuck doing like a bunch of these admin things here. They're down here. It's like lower skill, lower passion, and probably like you procrastinate on those things even more so than the things that you would be doing up here too.
Yeah. So this is called the zone of genius. And it's like, what's the work you're best at and enjoy the most? And most people start a business because they have a passion or a skill. They're like a really good marketer. They're a consultant. They're a bookkeeper, accountant, whatever it is. And they think, I'm just going to like do this thing I love all the time. But then when you have a business, you also have to do admin, customer support, finances, sales, market. You have to do all the things. And when you grow from like yourself to a team, you get to start to let go of the things that aren't in your zone of genius. So the problem with when you are trying to do it all yourself and not delegating is some of the stuff you're doing, you hate doing. And some of the stuff you're doing, you're not even good at. You're terrible at it. So it takes you 2 or 3 times as long as someone else who knows what they're doing. And so you're just every hour you put into a low skill or draining thing is keeping you from an hour you could be doing the high skill, high passion thing that is infinitely more enjoyable, but also more valuable for growing your business.
Yeah.
And that's where that exercise is really helpful. We'll talk about that towards the end, but the longer you stay doing all the things you don't want to do, the less time you'll have to do the things that you do want to do.
Yeah. Anything else you want to touch on here? Or should we switch gears?
I think when you think about how is my inability to delegate holding me back, it's keeping you stuck. It's keeping you stuck doing the things you don't want to do and aren't very good at. But also, it makes your whole business dependent on you. And so if you want to take a day off, or you want to take a vacation, or you're sick, and you're the one who does everything, then nothing gets done. Whereas when you learn to delegate and you learn to get support, you can actually create that space and that freedom that most business owners dream about.
Yeah, and I think you're talking about the common thing of you are the business, which it's not a business. You're the business. If you want to own a business, you have things working for you so that you could actually take a month off and that machine continues to turn and move without you.
Yeah, exactly. So those are the reasons it's holding you back. And if those are like familiar or relevant to you, then let's talk about why it's probably happening. And then we'll get to what you can actually do about it to change, because it's not as easy as just telling a person, go do this thing, and then never thinking about it again, obviously.
Yeah.
So what are you encountering with your clients around struggles around delegating?
I mean, the biggest one always comes back to control. So often, because we are the person, and I'm speaking to myself because this has happened to me many times, but we're really good at the thing, and clients trust us to be really good at the thing, and we are the face of the business. And to get to delegate and give it to somebody else, one, feels very vulnerable, but two, sometimes we've been burned in the past and we don't trust somebody to actually execute and do the thing to the level that we can. So there's so often you have a foot on the gas being like, I want to grow my business and take time off. And then the foot on the brake saying, but I need to be in control 100% all the time. And a lot of that comes back to like maintaining high quality. And sometimes there's self-limiting beliefs around like only you are the one that's good enough as the business owner to be able to do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah. And there are scenarios, there are things that you are truly the only person who can and should do in your business, but that list is way smaller than you think it is. And again, the path to growth and letting go of control and having more freedom is really recognizing, like, am I truly the only person who can do this thing? Or is there someone else who's qualified, skilled, confident, and even affordable to be able to do this thing and open my time up for other stuff?
Yeah. It's a
But
bit.
yeah, I hear the same thing. Control is a big one. I don't want to let go of control. I don't want to let the quality slip.
Yeah. Yeah. What about the second thing that you tend to see?
So depending on how much experience you have as a manager and a leader, there's also often a skill and confidence gap where if you've never led a team before or you've never managed someone before, then delegating can feel really challenging and it can be unclear, like, how do I do this? So those are two very different things. The skill confidence gap is something that you can learn the process, you can practice, and you can get better at. The control piece is a mindset, and that's something that needs you need to work on with yourself. But in both cases, the thing with delegating is it's like an infinite skill. You can constantly improve at it. And you can think about, like, there are people who lead companies with 1,000 people, and they're somehow delegating everything to 1,000 people below them. And then there are people who can barely lead one person. And so if you have a business and you have no employees, then the first gap is I got to get a person and see if I can delegate any work to them confidently. And then before you get to 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 employees, you need to practice with that one. And you may not be good, but you'll learn and you'll improve. So it's really about practice.
Yeah. It's learnable. I think this sometimes is one of those things where it's like, oh, I'm just not good at it. It's a self-learning. I'm just bad at math. I'm just bad at whatever. I'm just bad at delegating. It's like, no, it's a learnable, practicable skill that can be mastered over time.
Yeah.
I think the challenge is, in a small business, you're in a pressure cooker, so it feels a lot harder to learn that skill as you're trying to build a business versus other areas. Maybe you're in a volunteer group, or you're in a large corporation where there's just more space and time and energy that could go into learning something like this. This is a bit tougher because it's a small business.
Definitely. And so ways that you can make that easier if you're new at it would be you find someone who's already skilled or has expertise in the thing you're trying to delegate. So let's say bookkeeping or social media. Those are two really common skills and tasks that businesses like to delegate. You either hire someone internally to do them, or you find a contractor or someone. If you find someone who has the skill in that, you don't need to teach them how to do it. All you need to do is say, here's what I expect. Here's how often I expect it. And then they go and do the work. And that's a really fast way to free yourself up. If you have someone internally and they don't have the skill, or they do, and you have to work with them, it's going to be more hands-on, but you'll learn faster by having someone who's hands-on and just going through it repeatedly. And it can be as simple as asking the person, do you know how to do this thing? Do you know how to complete X task or get this outcome? And if they don't, then you can sit and walk them through, here's how I would approach it, here's how I've been doing it, etc.
Yeah.
But I
And
think you hit
then
on a good one, which is the third one of, like, a big reason people, especially small business owners, struggle with delegating is the speed and their capacity. So they feel like it will always feel like it's faster if I just do it myself versus train someone else or delegate it to someone else. And the challenge is it's a loop. That's the capacity thing that we talked about. It's, as long as you're the only one who can do it, yes, you get that thing off your list today, but you're not saving yourself the time in the future.
yeah, this is something I see all the time. And we do this in so many different ways in our own businesses, but we win the short-term battle. So we win it, we get it done, it's fast. I can just get it done really quickly because I'm the best one at doing it. But we lose that bigger war of being able to delegate that to somebody. And it's a different way of saying, like, short-term pain, long-term gain. We're not following that principle. We're focusing on that short-term focus, which shoots us in the foot long-term.
Yeah, the way I help people recognize this is we talk about what's the thing that you have to do every single week that's taking up time. And let's say it's like 5 hours a week of this admin work that never goes away and it's always there. It's short term, sure, you can just do the 5 hours instead of, like, going and finding someone to support you. But once you do find someone and you set them up and they take that off your plate, you've just regained 5 hours a week, 20 hours a month, hundreds of hours a year to then go put into other things. So when you're thinking short-term gain versus long-term pain, it's like, how much time is this saving me right now? And how much would it save me long-term?
Yeah.
Because if you can spend 20 hours to recruit a person, train them, and get them set up to do that in 1 month, that investment pays for itself. And now every other month you get to think about all the other things in your business because you've got all the plates,
Yeah.
you know?
Things start to compound.
Yeah.
In a good way. Well, let's bring this home. So we've talked about the problem of why we struggle to delegate, how this is holding you back, kind of the three key ways that we commonly see business owners really get in their own way and not being able to delegate. So what can you actually do about it? And we've got a couple of things just as some takeaways or tips based on working with a lot of clients with this. And again, just from our own experiences. And the first is really becoming aware of what price you're willing to pay to actually figure this out. Because a lot of people, they say they want it, and then they start to get into it and realize that, oh, it's going to require 2 months of like finding somebody, training them, getting them onboarded. And maybe that has to happen twice for you to actually learn how to do it properly. And they're actually not willing to pay that price. So really getting clear on like what trade-off are you willing to make in order to figure this thing out, and having some more like patient expectations with yourself to figure that out, I think is something that I've noticed and really challenge a lot of clients to look closely at.
Yeah,
If you have more to add on this one.
This is essentially, are you going to remain a solopreneur or a small business owner? Or are you going to are you trying to grow beyond yourself? And just, it's okay to be on either side. Like we're both solopreneurs, but I've also led a team, and I'm like, there's pros and cons to both. Some of my clients right now have decided I'm going to stay a solopreneur. And so the path to grow their business is different than the people who say, I'm going to grow a team and a business. So just before you even worry about, should I be delegating? Can I delegate? Deciding, are you willing to?
Yeah. And what's the next one we had here?
So when someone's trying to figure out what kind of work should I get off my plate, the places that I focus are, what's the most painful, frustrating, draining work that you do? And that's a really good thing to get off your plate, because typically that's the stuff that you procrastinate or you try to rush through, or, if you do it, you're not doing it that well because you find it difficult or frustrating. So getting that off your plate not just frees up your time, but it also frees up your enjoyment of your business to focus on things that you do enjoy and are better at. So that's a huge place to start, is what's that draining thing that you wish you could never do again? And it's different for every person. But again, the things I hear most commonly are bookkeeping, social media, admin, marketing. There's a couple of pretty common threads throughout most small businesses. So that's a good place. And then the second one is, what's the most time consuming part of my week or month? And usually that's going to be a mix of like client delivery work or depending on the size of your business, like sales and marketing. But when you know what's the most time consuming part, again, thinking about that short versus long-term trade-off, you could say, if I give up or I hire support for this 20-hour chunk of my week every week, I literally get back hundreds of hours, every single month and beyond, to refocus on the other stuff I want to be doing.
Yeah. I just wanted to double down on the first one, the draining and frustrating work. Like think about how much more energy and fun you'd be having if you didn't have to do those things. And it just opens up so much flow because you're not resisting what you have to do. So there's a more internal alignment and energizing, like it's like an upward spiral versus like a downward spiral that you're fighting.
Exactly. Those are the two things that really cause people to feel like they're grinding. It's working a lot of hours, but it's also working on things that they don't like doing.
Yeah.
And so eliminating those is the first place that I go with helping clients so that they can grow, enjoy their business more, and work less.
Writing this so people can actually read it. And then, sorry, my notes moved a little bit there. What was our
So you kind of
last
figure
one?
out, should I be delegating? Am I willing to pay the price by hiring people and leading people instead of just doing it all myself? Then what work would I want to let go of? And then like, how do I let go of that work is kind of a helpful thing to think about. So a couple ways that can make that easy. One is you create a system and you record like a quick loom of how you do certain things in your business. And then when you have a person that you want to delegate it to, you're like, here's how I do it. Here's my process for doing social media, for managing my email, for managing my calendar, whatever it is. And then you give it to them and you give them the video. And now you've actually given them like the context and information to be able to do it. And so that's really helpful. And it's a very good practice of just, what's the work I want to let go of? Document it into a system or a process or a video so that when you have the person, you can give it away.
Yeah, and I think it's a lot easier than people think it is to create some of those documents. But again, it takes a bit of time. You're being proactive, doing something in the short term that will pay off in the long term. But if you're trying to move a million miles an hour and get like a bajillion things done, very urgent things, this usually gets put on the back burner. So again, short term versus long term.
Yeah, like a lack of systems and a lack of delegating, just it keeps people feeling overwhelmed and overworked. But when you start to do these things, having systems helps delegating, makes it easier. And the more you delegate, the more time you have to create more systems, to delegate more. And that's how people get up to being like president, CEO, director level, where they don't do any of the actual work in the business. They're just constantly telling other people, here's where we're going, here's what you need to do. Tell me how you do.
Yeah. Any final words of wisdom?
I'd say, again, depending on where people are at, whether you have a small team or a big team or you're new to this, it's getting really specific about what's the stuff that I want to be spending my time on and should be spending my time on to create the business, the life, the value that I want. And what's the stuff that's getting in the way of me doing that and focusing on it. And that should be kind of your dividing line between what needs to be delegated and what needs to be done.
Yeah. Um, if anybody has questions, please reach out to us. We're hoping to do a lot more of these videos where we riff on things, share some things visually. We hope it's of service. And I've had a lot of fun doing this. So, Jordy, I'm stoked to do another one of these. And please give us feedback if there's a topic that you'd like us to pull apart as a small business owner that we can do a little session on. Let us know.
Beautiful. Yeah, really good. And hopefully this helps some people break through the barriers around delegating and start to make more action. Because when you get comfortable with it and confident, it does change everything.
Yeah. All right. Have a good one.